Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to today's Intelligent Document Processing Virtual Summit. My name is Sally Fletcher, Head of SSON Digital, and I'm delighted to be hosting this session today. So before the break, we looked at seamless integration, how to deploy IDP to make it fast, to make it effective, and to make it get that ROI that we're all looking for. We're now going to be looking at how IDP has evolved and how it's being integrated with AI to create some really fantastic results in automation. And before I hand over to our speakers, we've got two speakers here, Chris Mertz and Mark Vigliona. I will just have a few notices on the console that you have before you. For those of you joining us for the first time, and it's actually great to see that lots of people keep coming back for our sessions. This session is eligible for your CPE points. So if you are in North America and you're looking to get those CPE points, you need to listen to at least 28 minutes of the session and take part in 2 polls, of which I will put the first one on very shortly. We also have that question mark. If you do have any technical problems during the session, the answer will likely be in here. But you can also message me or my colleague Carrie in the attendee chat and we will get right back to you. And the attendee chat is the best place for the questions. Any questions, any comments, pop them in here, and we've reserved some time at the end of the session for those. And there's also the emojis. It is very difficult presenting online. We can't see you, we can't hear you, but we love to know that you're out there and agree or disagree, but we like to know that you're listening. So please do give us a thumbs up if you agree with the information that we're sharing and are enjoying the session. There's also the speaker bio and LinkedIn. I will, of course, introduce our speakers very shortly, but you can connect with them on LinkedIn here and understand a little bit more about who they are and what they do. And finally, there's our resource center. So as you will have seen from the previous sessions, there are additional resources related to the topic of the session. So in here, I've put a link to a webinar that we're doing with Base64.ai on AI-powered IDP featuring Google, just a little company you may have heard of. So that's taking place on October the 17th, and you can sign up for that webinar at the link below. There's also a copy of the slides there, so don't worry about taking screenshots, sit back and relax and enjoy the session. So yes, I will hand over to, let me do the poll. Sorry, I got ahead of myself there. We're going to put the poll here. We'd love to know, do you currently have an IDP system integrated with a workflow or business process management system? And is that yes, IDP integrated with a workflow or BPM? B, no, but currently working on deploying. C, no, but have IDP integrated to other lines of business system. Or D, no, but have standalone workflow BPM that routes documents for manual handling. That sounds very technical to me, but I'm hoping the audience understand it. So I'm going to leave that up there just while I introduce our speakers. And if you do have any other alternatives or challenges, please pop it in the attendee chat. We love to know where you are and what you're facing within IDP. So our speakers for this session, we've got 2 speakers. We've got Chris Mertz and Mark Vigliona. Chris is a seasoned executive with over 20 years of experience in enterprise software, specializing in partnerships, go-to-market strategies, and ecosystem-led growth. And as you can see, he's currently serving as SVP of Partner Ecosystems at Base64. He's joined by Mark Vigliona, who has been with a company called AITS for over a decade, automating hundreds of solutions using the Nintex toolset. Mark has designed and implemented large-scale solutions for clients of all sizes and industries, leveraging workflow platforms and forms, as well as RPA. So I'm going to hand over to you, Chris, to lead us in our session. Let's have a look at what our audience said. So yes, 52% are integrating IDP with workflow and BPM. Is that something that reflects what you see? Is that fairly standard?
Yeah, I think a lot of people in the across organizations at this point in time. So we're going to dig into some of the challenges and how easy or hard that can be for organizations organizations and try to offer up some solutions as we go through the session today. So these are great results.
Brilliant. I'm going to hand over to you to lead us in the session.
All right. Thank you, Sally. And thanks everyone for being here today. We're going to talk about AI-powered IDP and how you can supercharge your automation strategies within your organization. And as Sally mentioned, I have my partner here, Mark Viglione, who's going to be joining me and helping illustrate what we can do when we take an AI-powered IDP offering and then speed up the deployment of strategy and really supercharge that automation. Mark's going to use Nintex as they're also a Nintex partner to help illustrate how we have the two systems working together. But the first thing we want to start off with is answering the question, why is it still so high processes? I've been working in document automation space since 2001. I know Mark has had many decade plus of doing this as well. And even though the solutions that have been out there for workflow and BPM and document automation have been around for decades, it's still very challenging for a lot of organizations to do. And we believe part of that is because 80% of your data remains locked away in those documents, and the data that you need in order to drive your automation strategy. And you might be thinking, but that's what IDP is for. That's why we're here at an IDP virtual summit, which is true, but many of those IDP offerings remain very challenging and slow to deploy and require way too much configuration. So if you have if you as an organization have many documents that you need to automate, sometimes just the sheer scope and time to deploy prevents you from doing that. But let's say you were able to extract all of the information there, and now you have all the data. It still becomes very challenging to build those rules in a BPM or workflow tool. Remains very fragile and tedious, especially as the data explodes in the quantity and the level of decisions that you have to make. It all becomes very, very complex. So I think we have one more poll for you now that we've set the stage for what we're going to talk about, and now that we know how many of you are already integrating, we'd love to know what your biggest challenge was, or any challenges you anticipate when you are deploying your own, or when you're attempting to integrate your intelligent document processing system with your workflow or BPM system. So is it that there's just too many documents and you'll never get to them all, or too many fields and the time and energy to extract them all is a concern for you? Are you worried about integrating the two platforms together? Or perhaps maybe you're concerned that even if you do this, you're still going to have a very low level of straight-through processing, or maybe just the overall time it takes to deploy. And then if none of the others bothered you, maybe you're concerned about how are you going to maintain this, because you're in an evolving business situation where your needs and rules and policies are constantly changing. You're worried keeping up with it will just become too cumbersome or costly. So I'll give another few seconds for people to get their results in, and then we'll see where we landed.
I usually ask Chris if one of the speakers would give us a song while we wait. So maybe Mark or Chris.
That would be Mark. That would be Mark, yes. But
yeah,
we're going to...
No, it's a public service. I'm not going to do that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. I think we can click onto the results then in that case.
All right, sounds good. So, yeah, this is exactly the types of results I would expect to see. I don't know about you, Mark, but a lot of organizations, because of the challenge in how cumbersome it is to configure document types in the fields, they often don't go far enough. They don't have enough of their process automated because of the work that's there. Integration's getting significantly easier, so I'm not surprised that one was low level straight through processing. Again, it's a factor of the first one. If you have a lot of documents and a lot of data that you need, if you can't get all of that automated, it's hard to have straight through processing. And then, of course, maintaining rules, configurations, cumbersome. I think this is exactly what we'd expect to see. And I'm excited because we're actually going to be talking about these things in our session today. So We're going to hit on 3 areas today. We're going to talk about how to use pre-trained AI models to significantly accelerate the configuration and deployment of an IDP solution. And then the part that I'm most excited to talk about today is how we can use document reasoning. So if we can understand all of the data that's in the documents we receive, and we have other documents that tell us what our policies and procedures are within the organization, we can reason those 2 documents together and help simplify the decisioning that your workflow systems need. And then we're going to turn it over to Mark, and he's going to take what we build out in Base 64 and show you how to do that, how that can then power the Nintex workflow. But I'm going to take a moment now and just tell you about Base 64 before we move on. Base 64 is an AI-powered document intelligence system, and our belief is that in order to power the autonomous enterprise in an organization, you need to unlock the data that is in all of the documents that you are dealing with on a daily basis, whether that's in insurance, across claims processing and other use cases, or banking, or across more horizontal use cases you see in any organization, such as vendor onboarding. The data you need in order to drive that autonomous enterprise is locked away in those documents. So what has Base 64 done to simplify that for organizations? If you take our customer Avetta, for example, they're achieving a 99.7% accuracy rate in processing their Accord 25 forms, which we're going to actually look at in a moment in the demo. And the reason they're able to get such high rate is because Base 64 has invested the time to build out over 2,800 pre-trained AI models that are geared towards the most common documents you see across finance, insurance, and even in many other organizations. And so that you, the organization or partner or implementation team, does not have to spend their time configuring fields and rules on extraction, but can actually focus on the real high value business part of that. And so we have the library of 2,800 pre-trained AI models that massively simplifies that effort for you. And all of this is available through one simple API call that also enables 400 plus out-of-the-box integrations for you. So we've built all the AI capabilities you need. We allow you to layer them together, which I'll show you in a moment, to get the best results you need for your organization and for your particular use case. And all of that is available in an enterprise-grade security and compliant environment with ISO certifications, SOC 2 Type 2, GDPR, HIPAA, etc. So we're very excited about the ability we're able to bring to our customers, and our customers are excited about it as well. We're seeing great results and great reviews from G2. We've been excited to be recognized as a leader there. Our customers love us for being easy to use and best usability, and I hope you'll see that in just a few moments as we show you the software. But first, I want to let Mark take an opportunity and just tell you about AI Global Solutions, and then he's going to set up a little bit more on the challenges they see in workflows that they work on. Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. My name is Mark Vichelone. I'm been myself a senior Nintex developer here at AIGS for a little more than a decade. Again, at AIGS, you may have heard of us under our previous name, Image Tech Systems. We've been AIGS for a little more than a month and a half now. So if you've heard of Image Tech, that's us, but we're now AIGS. We've been in business for 25 years. We started really in this document space and have now become, over the last 25 years, expanded to a full workflow and automation platform provider. Premium partners with both Base 64 and Nintex, and we sort of handle everything from advanced support, advanced integrations with line of business systems, solution development, and that whole thing. So again, if you're automating something, generally we can handle it and facilitate that for you. But as I said, we've been in business for 25 years. So what I'm going to do here, as we sort of set up the problem that we're going to solve through this session, we'll all hop back into the way back machine as to when we sort of started with document processing. And back in the day, before we had any kind of document intelligence, right? We didn't have any automation of any documents. We didn't have any OCR fancy things, really. So we were typing data in, right? We want to onboard a vendor. So we were all proud because we had a form online where we could just type data. It's slow, it's error prone. We got everything digitized, but that was sort of where the value add ended. We're looking over trying to find box B25 and make sure we put it in the right spot in our document. So that we could try to then move it to the next person who's also going to manually enter data, et cetera. And so as the systems and the ecosystem everywhere has evolved, we've moved into what I call half document intelligence, some document intelligence, where we're able to sort of do some automation, right? We're able to no longer have to manually enter that data. We're getting that data in, we're looking at it. But in order for us to make decisions on the data, to really add intelligence to our processing, we're having to make these giant if-then machines, these giant decisions where we're basically just comparing values, right? Is this greater than that? Is that greater than that? Does this meet this limit? And so here I'm just doing two fields here. So this compares two fields. And so once I know that they don't match our our policy, what we need, I then have to do more logic just to determine, is this, why did it fail? Did it fail on A? Did it fail on B? And anytime A and B fail, I've got to come back into my workflow and update all my limits, et cetera. Now I can use other data sources I can try to get to, so I don't have to update my code, which is great, but I still have to update where those limits are stored. So anytime we add new limits, anytime we change policy, I'm doubling up on my work, right? I've got to make sure we update the policy limits that everybody has. Then I've got to take that document and manually re-enter it somewhere else. And so what we really would want is to have something, an intelligent system that makes decisions for us, that says, this is good and this is why. This is bad and this is why. And what we can then focus our energy on as developers and solution engineers and workflow engineers is the process, where we can add real value and we don't spend our time doing these repetitive, low value decisions. So, and Chris is going to show us exactly how we can do that. So go right ahead, Chris.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. So just to set up the demo that you're going to see in a moment here, the use case we're going to show you is a fictitious, vendor onboarding for Mark and I's company here. And in order to do that, we need to receive a certificate of insurance or an Accord 25 form, along with a W-9 form, and extract all of the pieces of information from those two documents, which is well over 100 data points that we're going to extract out. And once we have that information extracted, we're going to evaluate the information to determine if it meets the requirements our company has set for things like insurance coverage. And then we have to build that into our automation system so that as documents come in, we can try to provide some level of straight-through processing without creating the scenario Mark was just talking about, where you have a very tedious I think it was the if-then machine, as you called it, Mark, that needs to be, built out these extensive logic trees. And if you change one of those fields, you have to go back in and mess around with it. So what you're going to see in a moment here again is using pre-trained AI models. We're going to show you document reasoning, which is new capabilities we are just rolling out. So I'm very excited about that piece. And then we're going to turn those results back around to Mark so he can show you how it massively simplifies the workflow in the Nintex system. So with that, let's jump into some live software. And I'm going to share my screen. And maybe you can give me a thumbs up if you are seeing our Base 64 AI webpage.
Yeah, we can see it.
Excellent. All right. Before I jump into the software, I've mentioned these 2,800 document types many times, and it really is a differentiator between Base 64 and other IDP vendors, and especially the impact and time to value it can have for you. So all of them are listed out on our website. You're free to go out and browse through them. They're broken down into different industry groups. You can see in finance and insurance in particular, we have a large number of them there. So this is what makes the process really fast, the engineering, the development of different AI models that help accelerate this process. But I'm going to start off just building completely from scratch a new flow that we can process our Accord 25 form and our W9 form. So I'm going to create a new flow, and you'll see how easy it is to get started. I'm just going to give it a name, SSON, vendor onboarding. I don't need to set any other values here on this particular screen, so I can go ahead and save. I do have some additional edits to the flow I need to make. So I'm going to go back in. I'm going to start with our AI features. This is really part of the power and magic of Base 64, is the time and energy we've built out all of these different features, or you can think of them as skills. Each of them is their own type of AI that allows us to layer together just the capabilities you need in order to drive the results that you're looking for. So different use cases are going to require a different combination of these. So it's always best practice to turn on those you need and turn off those that you don't. So for our use case with a W9 and an Accord 25, we do not need the barcode detection or blur detection. There are lots of checkboxes on the documents we're going to process. We're going to leave those on. We do not have digital signature, so I'll turn that off, along with facial recognition, glare detection. We do have handwritten signatures, so we will leave that capability on. And I'm going to turn off our shape verification semantic processing. So again, there's a lot of capabilities here, way too much for us to go through in the course of this demo, but this is really what allows us to give you, through one API, all of the power of all the different AI capabilities that if you were to develop this yourself, you would likely have to rely on different vendors, different services, different libraries, etc. We bring it all together and accessible via checkbox for you. And then the only other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our restrictions page, and I'm going to restrict my flow to the two document types I'm working with. This is where I would select out of the 2,800 pre-built models which ones I care about. They're all here in the list. You can scroll through them, but it makes it really easy to just type through. So I'm going to select the Accord 25 and also the W9 form. And that's actually it. We've now configured a production-ready flow that will extract, classify, and extract over 100 data points from a W9 and a Accord 25 form. So I go back to my flow here. Let's look at the documents we're going to process today. So we have a few different certificates of insurance and a few different W9s that match those certificates. I'm just going to drag them all, bring them into the system. As I do that, you can see the system starts immediately processing in parallel all of the different document types. And in just seconds, we're starting to see results come back on processing the Accord 25, which again has 93 fields on it. So very fast. I'm going to go into one of these documents here and just show you what the interface looks like and get a sense of the data extraction that happens. First thing you'll see is we've correctly classified the document. And then I can begin to tab through the fields, and you'd see the things you'd expect to see in a modern IDP system. You see the data being extracted, it's validated. In our case, we format dates in an ISO format, so nice and easy to use downstream. We perform some level of data validation on the dates, and we show you where we found that in the document. So that's repeated through for all 93 fields that we've extracted off of the document here. I'm going to assume you trust that if an IDP vendor is showing you a sample here, we have all the data correct. So I'm not going to bore you looking at all 93 fields, but I do want to just show you a couple of the features that make Base 64 really simple to work with. And that is when you come down and you look at every time someone hands us a document, we return a very consistent data structure back. In starting at the top with the model, we tell you exactly which of our AI models we process this under, and then we have consistent formatting for all of the field data. The key value, the original text we OCR'd, including the text that we've reformatted as. If you want to represent this data in a downstream system, we provide all of the location data there as well. And that's repeated for all of the field information, as well as all of the other features on the form that are processed there as well. So this makes downstream integration, parsing of the data and working through other systems a very easy task for a developer. And this is something that Mark was able to easily parse out into the Nintex system. So that's the Accord 25 form. And I'll show you the W9 forms are all processed as well. Same thing. We have the model, we have the data, all of the different fields here. And this is, these are not the most challenging forms out there, but I will say that for the Accord 25 in particular, if you were to have to configure this yourself, because of the sheer number of volume of fields, it would take an extremely long time to get all of the data and then have that data be extracted and validated, and the tuning and training and everything that's required. As you saw, we did not do any training of the system. I added 2 of our classes, our models, to the flow and added documents, and now we have that data. And once again, just showing the consistent format of all of the data that we pull out of the documents. So that's it for the extraction piece. So now, using those pre-built models, I saved, we did it in minutes, and we have production ready data that's available to go downstream. The next thing I want to show you, though, is decisioning within our workflow. So every organization has job aids that they use to help someone do their job. Some type of policy requirements document. These are often the same documents that are handed to both a knowledge worker to do their job, but also to a developer to implement into a workflow system. So if you already have this information, our belief is you shouldn't have to take this and create a bunch of if-then machines in order to process it. You should be able to use this document itself. So here is an example. We have the document, and we can understand what the insurance limits are. So I can just ask what insurance limits are required for a new vendor. And the system returns all of that information to me. So if I already have a document, and the document can already be understood in a very natural language fashion, then there's no reason for me to have to build this into another system. So I can do this here at an individual document, or I can actually do it at the flow. So this could be a library of all of my documents. And again, I'll ask, what is the umbrella limits required? I think that would be what are the umbrella limits required, but live demo, typing fast. And you can see, here's the results coming back for that. So our belief, again, and this is new capabilities we've implemented into our tool, is if we already have the ability to understand those policy documents, we have the ability to ask questions of those documents, we should then also have the ability to reason when a new Accord 25 form comes in, and just reason them against those documents. So we've done that here in our vendor onboarding flow. And just show you very simply, we have the ability, one of the capabilities is to add integrations. And at post-processing, we're just calling our own APIs, the same APIs that powered those searches I just showed you, to do a search in the flow. And essentially, we're asking this question. We're just saying, given the Accord 25 form, and then we insert the extracted data from that document from a potential new vendor, respond with approved or needs review, followed by a detailed reasoning for the decision. So, and then we return that data back to the document in the form of an insight. And then let me show you what that looks like after we process the document in, and then Mark will show you how he's using that in his workflow in a moment. So if I open up one of the documents we processed in this workflow, and if I go down to the end here, we're going to see a new field that wasn't there in the original result. And it's this decision output. And you can see in this particular case, this document will require further review. And it gives a detailed explanation of exactly what part of that policy failed. And all of this was possible by just simply asking a question and giving one document to another document. and ask them to compare themselves and figure out where any gaps in the policy may be. And this massively simplifies the processing that's required in the downstream system, which I'm going to flip it back to Mark now so he can show you exactly what that looks like in Nintext. But this is how we can, just to recap, showed you quick extraction of 100+ fields, and then using existing content policy documents to provide a decision back to your users, all without having to write any complex code or any complex decisioning structure in those documents. So Mark, why don't you show everyone how you're able to use this decision output along with all the data we extract in the Nintext system.
All right. Thanks, Chris. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're going to get to see my whole screen, real treat for everybody here, because we're going to get some emails and respond to some tasks. So go ahead and share, and hopefully you guys can see my screen and see the Nintext platform. And so here it is. So here's a workflow that's going to use our whole decision tree. So you say, well, Mark, that looks pretty complex still. But this first part is really just about getting the data. So again, this is what I do best, right? I'm integrating systems. It's actually because Chris had showed you that JSON field there, real easy to get the data. And then we're going to do a little bit of, hey, just some field manipulation. So when we communicate, we're communicating well. And then this is it. This is our entire decision tree right here. Did we get it? Cool. If not, let's ask humans what to do. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this out. And the first thing I want to point out as we kick this thing off is, remember, old way, fill in all this data by hand. New way, hey, just upload the Accord 25 and the W-9 forms for the vendor. No need to enter any data. The system's going to read which one goes where. So I just say, okay, here's my W-9. Let me go ahead and throw one of those in there. And I'll say, here is my, we'll go with Dumbo here. He's big ears like me. And here is my my Accord form, and I'm going to submit. It's going to upload those documents. So we'll go ahead and let it do that for a second or two. We're uploading, and now it's going to go ahead and submit. So that will go ahead and kick off our workflow here. Let me flip back over here. And again, the important part is, from a logic standpoint, I'm down from all of this, right? And then again, this is just asking two fields, two umbrella fields right here. I'm down from all of this stuff to just this. Just what does the human do? And it allows me as a developer, and Nintext is a platform, which is orchestrate those human events, move things through, help me make decisions. When a decision is made, help me route those things to the right place. So rather than spending all my time with, hey, is this under 1 million? Is this over 1 million? Is this in this list or not in this list? Can I go through and I have to loop through and check all the possibilities and see if mine is in there? And then again, process what's those results. I'm bringing more value now because I'm looking at the process and saying, okay, what do we do? And we'll say, well, if for whatever reason we need review, we can apply for a legal exception. We can say, never mind. Or maybe we can say, hey, I uploaded the wrong documents. Let me upload different documents. And then the system can respond to that choice. And I can send new documents through the system. And again, same, one decision point. All I care about is, are we needs review or are we approved? If we're approved, we process. And if we don't approve, we're going to either, again, apply for legal, cancel the request. Now, I did put in one that should generate approval. Since all we're going to do is, if we get approved, all we're going to do is just send a message that says, hey, you've been approved, and here's your approval message. The fun part, from a developer and a demo standpoint and all of those things really is, what happens if we need review? So let me go ahead and see. And there, I get an email here, comes through and says, your documents for vendor onboarding had the following issue. And it tells me what the issue is, right? So I see that the umbrella insurance limit is per occurrence in the aggregate, the minimum per occurrence in the aggregate. However, I'm not in the list, right, of additional assured, and it doesn't mention a waiver. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and say, okay, it got routed to me. I'm going to look at it and I'm going to make a decision here. And I can see, hey, I've got the general liability that I want. I got the umbrella that I want. I can kind of see there's the address and everything. And I look at, again, the issue, right? And I say, oh, you know what? New documents probably won't help. What I need to do is say, get a legal exception, right? And so again, I'm using the power of Nintex to tell me, hey, after the decision is made, what do I do next? And it'll take this whole thing and route it off to legal. And so if I come back over here to our legal exception, so I come down here, again, so much better than me having to write 30 ifs, 40 ifs, a bunch of branches around, is it this or that, or this or that? And then again, if I fail one, having to figure out why I failed so that I can give this sort of message back to the person and say, hey, this is the problem right here. And so then they were able to make a decision, route it off over here to legal review. And again, legal gets the same message of, hey, this is what's wrong with it. Legal can go ahead and open it up. They can look it over. And because it's Tuesday and we're doing a demo and I'm in a good, happy mood, I'm going to go ahead and say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and approve that exception request and submit it. And so now I've approved that. But again, I only, as the developer, had to write one condition. Are we approved? Do we need review? All the other decision-making is handled on the base 64 side. They return it in this really easy to handle structure. I read that JSON. I tell it, hey, this is what you do. And now, again, I'm using Nintex to its full power of orchestrate what happens, help me move it through. And I'm using me as a developer to my full power of, hey, integrate, help me move things through the process. And again, once legal has approved it, again, we can come through and we can see, hey, legal is approved and it has been approved through a legal exception. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. So again, that's how we can transform that process from me writing 100 if statements to writing one if statement, and my value now becoming much greater as I developed a full solution that allows us to handle those exceptions, process them quickly, process them properly, and everything has become orders of magnitude more efficient.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. And, you know, I think in my 2+ decades of building these systems and deploying these systems, what people care about is the outcome. And no one cares about the sausage making, if you will, and all of the configuration that goes into it. So if you don't have to configure every field on a document from scratch to get good extraction results, if you don't have to build every if-then rule, you get much closer to giving customers the outcome and focus on the outcome of the true straight-through processing, the true automation that they're looking at in their organization. So thank you for helping illustrate that. So again, just to review, what you just saw is you saw Base 64 leveraging some pre-built AI models to build a production-ready extraction workflow within a matter of minutes, extracting well over 100 data points from 2 different commonly worked on forms within business. You then saw Base 64 take an existing job aid that is probably there's hundreds of in every organization today. Let's make use of those and use those to actually reason against the incoming documents. So not just are we extracting all that data, but in real time as it processes through, we're able to return a reason or decision to help the downstream business processes. And in this case, that downstream process was Nintex. It could be any other workflow system as well. It's just our partner, AI Global Solutions, being a top Nintex provider, we thought this is a great opportunity to show the two work together, but we can supercharge any workflow system with Base 64 through extracting all the data and providing those decisions to you. So hopefully that was informative for you. And in fact, we'd actually love to know what, if there was one thing you could do to implement immediately that you saw today, we'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Would it be just the ability to leverage those pre-built AI models? Would it be using the document QA to query documents? That's what I was doing when I was typing the questions in. Or maybe it's implementing the ability to reason and decision one document against another to simplify your implementation and workflow, or maybe it's just all of the above, supercharging your automation strategy, your platform, by combining all of those capabilities together. But we'd love to, we'll give you another few moments to put an answer into the survey there, and then we'll show some results. And in the meantime, if you've already answered the survey and you have some questions, happy to answer more questions if you want to go ahead and put them into the chat itself. Happy to answer them there, and of course happy to work with you in the future as well. Sally?
Let's leave that open, Chris, while we kind of take a couple of questions. As you said, we do have a few minutes left for questions. So I can see that you guys were really on it with answering some of them during the presentation. But let's kind of answer them for the benefit of the group. So
Sure.
I'd love to know, Reet's asking, what about customized fields for documents which are specific to a particular domain? Is that something that you guys offer?
Absolutely. So our focus today was on just really accelerating using the pre-built models and decisioning, but we also have a custom model builder that you just define the fields in very natural language that you want to require. And that even includes things like create a table from the data on the document. All of that's done via natural language, and we can build completely custom models with custom fields in minutes as well. So it's something we'd be more than happy to demonstrate live to you. Just please reach out and we can get deeper into that.
Makes sense. And something we've been asked a lot today is about languages. So, I mean, are you able to, I know you touched on it, but are you able to expand a bit on your different languages that you guys cover?
Yeah, it's in the hundreds. The exact numbers on our website and some of our help information, I should probably know it, but we work with most major global languages, both for extraction as well as the Q&A and the interaction with the documents. So those questions could be asked in French and asked for a result in Spanish. All of that's possible through the platform.
Fantastic. And Prakash has just asked, I'll take one more question. Prakash has asked, what about highly unstructured documents like diagrams commonly seen in CAD systems or maps, reports? Can pre-trained models be made to help with these?
So the way we work in terms of evaluate which pre-trained models we build and make available to everybody is, of course, looking for consensus and need from the market, from our customers. So when we have enough signal that there's a lot of customers using the same thing, then we make those a candidate for pre-trained AI models available. That being said, in terms of highly unstructured documents, with our semantic AI that we use in our custom model builder, we're actually able to understand very highly unstructured documents, and even to the level of being multimodal and looking at some of the both graphical and pictures within those documents, as well as the text and language there. So happy again to demonstrate that for you and show that it's always better to work with the actual sample documents and prove out what we can do there. So
understood. Yeah, so let's see our results, and then if you want to close us out, we're coming right to the end of the session. So I'll hand back over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you all for the feedback on the results. This is what I was hoping to see in terms of the power of those pre-built models, how powerful they are in accelerating, but also the doc Q&A and the reasoning, decisioning, and the value of using that. So these are great. Thank you for the results there. And I'll just close it out with, if you'd like to learn more, the barcode on the middle of the screen there. If you want to scan that, fill out a simple form. Our team will be in touch with you. We'd love to do a consultation on how we can leverage our AI-powered IDP. For Prakash, if you're asking any questions about highly structured, please scan that. We'll be in touch and we can demonstrate the custom model builder and things to you directly. And then the final thing, Sally mentioned it earlier, but we'll be back with SSON with our partner Google and our CEO Chris Huff, who will be talking more about continuing that discussion on AI's impact on IDP. and the barcode in the bottom right there, if you scan that, will help get you registered for that. So thanks, Sally, for moderating and for running the session today. And Mark, thank you for being a great partner and demoing alongside of me today.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. It was great fun.
Thank you so much, guys. So we're going to head into the final session of our event. You can click on the arrows to the bottom right-hand side of your screen, and as per usual, that will take you directly into the last session of the day. So we're going to be looking at the topic of combining IDP, AI, and automation for powerful end-to-end workflows. And as you know, having an end-to-end process is really the starting point for great automation, great data analytics, great process, and all of those good things. So I think it's going to be a super interesting presentation. I will join you there. We'll get started in 10 minutes for that session. Thank you once again to Chris and Mark.